For some reason, we are generating rampant noise now. The FFT is nicely corrupted. Hello, Isobig. John, is there any reason I could not have multiple feeds on the same dish? If I put them side by side, I'm thinking of if we can have 3 feeds with built-in LNAs at different frequencies, because I'm assuming one feed that splits into multiple LNAs is another option. Haha. Should be able to get a good splitter. One LNA, one feed, and then split it into 2 or 3 different LNAs, different SDRs. Unless we can combine the LNA outputs into one SDR. This is sounding fun. We have a second peak now. This is a very visible peak at 142140. The good news is it is outside the clipping range of our graph display. It's so big we are scheming well, only slightly. This is what duct tape is for. Frequency should not impact the focal point. But now I am more thinking more about one feed and then splitting the signal into multiple LNAs. Or the other alternative is using an LNB or a wide angle. If we have a wide frequency, wide band, I should say, LNA, it should be able to cover 1.4 all the way to 1.6 easily. And then we'll use the SDR to choose which one to plot. We can ask Zena. Hi, Zena. Are we better off using 2 feeds with separate LNAs or just one feed and split it into 2 LNAs? This ugly pattern that we had in the past, where these are exactly 50 megahertz apart. Sorry, 50 kilohertz apart, has reappeared. NOELEC has wideband LNA from 20 megahertz to 4 gigahertz. And Tiletin has a wideband LNA from 0.1 to 2000 megahertz, and they're selling it for $8. I'm trying to see what Amazon carries. Okay, the GOES LNA 1.688. That's not too far from 1.665. No, I do not have my 4K monitor on. But there is a finite probability that my wife just turned a large TV on. And it is a lot closer to the dish than I am. Well, than my 4K monitor is. But the overall signal is dropping rapidly. And our friendly spike is back. The 1.419955 is back. No, the microwave is off. Hello, Toast. By other ideas, you mean besides 1.665? She did recommend something down in the 150 megahertz. That's going to require a different dish, much bigger dish. So we are at 5 hours RA. The snow has stopped, but not for long, Zena. The weather forecast is predicting a clipper to go through. So temperatures are going to drop dramatically overnight, and a narrow band of snow will sweep through. They're forecasting 1 to 3 inches, which is nothing for us. I tried that toast, and I have every reason to believe that it is external. It was gone all day. It just came back, about 15 minutes ago. It appeared in the morning around 10 o'clock and then disappeared, and now it's back. But it was gone a solid 10 hours. And there it is across the waterfall. Very, very clear. And now the FFT is carrying it big time. And it's showing up on the graph now as a solid red, the way it did early in the morning. It's a mysterious source. Let's see if Ara knows the cause of the repeating 50 kilohertz. Ara, what might cause a repeating 50 kilohertz signal across the fast Fourier transform on a 21 centimeter graph?
A repeating 50 kilohertz spike on a 21 centimeter FFT? That screams interference, probably from a nearby switching power supply or a cheap LED driver. Most 50 kilohertz noise shows up because that's right around where a lot of modern buck converters and fluorescent ballasts oscillate, cheap ones especially. If your setup's anything with a 50 to 100 watt SMPS, like a monitor, charger, or even a dimmable light, you'll see that exact harmonic line pop up, often stronger than the actual signal you're hunting. Could also be ground loop hum if you're using long cables, but 50 kilohertz is way too fast for that. It'd be 50 hertz or 60 hertz from mains. Quick test. Kill every power brick in the room and rerun the FFT. If it vanishes, boom, you found your gremlin.
Could my Tesla plugged in cause any of those problems?
Yeah, absolutely. Your Tesla charger could be the culprit. The onboard charger in most Teslas, especially older Model SX or even some 3s, uses a switching power supply that runs right around 40 to 60 kilohertz during charging. At 50 kilohertz, you're smack in the sweet spot for their PWM ripple. If you're measuring close by, like in the garage or even next room with thin walls, that high-frequency noise leaks out as EMI. It shows up strongest when the car's actively charging, level 2 or supercharger, but even idle top-off mode can pulse it. Try this. Unplug the Tesla, wait 30 seconds, then rerun your FFT. If the spike drops out, that's your smoking gun. Or just move the setup farther from the charger. 20 feet usually kills most of it. EVs are awesome, until they start singing on your spectrum.
I'm gonna go unplug the Tesla and then see what happens. I'll be back.
Cool, go for it. I'll wait right here. Take your time. Just holler when you're back with the results.
Okay, Tesla vindicated. And for some reason the signal is growing back up, including the noise level. Or the noise floor, I should say. Alright, it's not the Tesla. We unplugged the Tesla, we still have the bad signal.
Okay, back to square one. Good call ruling that out. So the 50 kilohertz spike's still there. Next suspects. Anything else plugged in nearby? Like a laptop charger, LED strip, phone brick, even a microwave. Those cheap ones love to vomit 45 to 55 kilohertz noise. Is your 21 centimeter setup indoors? Could be fluorescent lights or a dimmer switch. Turn every light off and check. Grounding. If you're renting long coax or audio cables, try shorter ones or add ferrite beads. Those harmonics love to ride wires. Power line. Plug everything into a different outlet, maybe even a different circuit. Old wiring can carry EMI like a radio station. What's your whole rig look like? Scope? Antenna? Where's it sitting? Give me a quick sketch. Might narrow it fast.
The only thing plugged in now is ARA. Do you generate any 50 kilohertz noise?
Nah, I promise. I'm not the one buzzing at 50 kilohertz. I'm all cloud-based. No hardware humming away in your room. No fans, no coils, no switching regulators. Just bits floating somewhere on a server farm. If anything, my noise is too low to even register on a spectrum analyzer.
The doggies don't generate 50 kilohertz. They generate, closer to 10 kilohertz maybe. 5 to 10. Which display? I have 3 displays on. Only turned the 4K display off. That's the only one off. The interesting thing about that spike is that it is dotted on the FFT. On the display, it's not showing as a solid line, but rather dots. I need to find out how far apart they are. What about the bottom right display, Toast? Ah, the display 2 megahertz wide. It is from 141960 to 142160. It is 2.4 megahertz wide. Well, the good news is the spectrum has gotten cleaner. Now, one thing worth noting is the blue strip that occurred just after 20 hours RA. It's the vertical strip which split the hydrogen line. It has recurred now a few minutes ago, again from top to bottom, bluish strip splitting the hydrogen line. In both cases, the overall signal dropped dramatically. If you go earlier, let me tell you what timestamp we had. It may have been before you got on, but we had a very regularly repeating signal. Let me see if I can pull it up. Uh-oh. I'm gonna pull it up, Toast, 1 second. You see that repeating signal at the bottom right display? That's what we're talking about. Earlier this evening it appeared on the lower end, but this was last week. And since we have 400 kilohertz per square here, we counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we estimate that at being at about 50 kilohertz apart. Oh, the Tesla is plugged back in. I plugged it back in because I need it first thing in the morning, and I need it warm. You got the commercial. Sorry. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. It doesn't appear often, but when it does, it's dramatic. Yeah, the signal has gotten clean again. And the other surprising part is not only do we have the spikes and the noise, but the noise floor had dropped completely. Now it's back to where we're seeing a signal. Now, we tried the Tesla multiple times in the past. I've tried it plugged in, plugged out. Tesla was the first thing we suspected. but it is totally idle right now, and it says on the app that the car is totally asleep. We no longer have any fluorescent lights in the house, and I do not have a single variable light or dimmable light. I don't have any dimmers in the house either. We know that these are bad news. Microwave is off, washer is off, dryer is off. The freezer is sitting in the garage where it is colder outside than it is inside, so it is off. While it will be good to find out what's causing that big spike, it doesn't matter. On the graph, it's appearing as that very, very dark dot at the bottom right of the graph, and that's about it. Now there's a new spike next to it. Not as bad, but those two spikes appeared this morning and then nothing the whole day, and then they reappeared now. I do not have an RF meter. What I'd like to do is I'd like to move the lower display just a bit to the left so that the spike and the waterfall and the raw signal spike all line up. Those to take me back to my junior year in college. The final exam for electronic circuits, we were given a two-transistor, two-stage circuit, and we were asked to calculate the amplification on it. And after I calculated the amplification, I discovered that that was really an oscillator, not an amplifier. Only 5 in a class of 40 wrote down that this was not an amplifier but an oscillator. We were the only ones who got A on that exam. Everybody else got F. All those who calculated the amplification, instead of saying, that's an oscillator. I am sure I can borrow one. Well, that was a lesson in engineering that I carried forth. When you think of Apollo 13, I used to show my students a clip from there. You may recall the square peg into the round hole, or vice versa, of the filters on Apollo 13. I would show the clip in the class on the very first day and say, and these are the questions that those engineers did not ask. Is this going to be graded pass fail or A to F? Do I get partial credit if I have the right approach but the wrong answer? And can we take an incomplete and finish it next semester? And when do you want this answer by? And we went down the entire list of questions that those engineers did not ask. Good night, Gina. Gina, we will be here till our time now is your time then. We're going to slide down that Milky Way till we hit the horizon. And to all those who joined us recently, we are imaging the Milky Way at 21 centimeters, 1.42040 gigahertz. This should be close enough. Yep. It is indeed a big spike. If we had left the display dynamic range, that spike would have wreaked havoc with it and nothing else would be visible. As you can tell here, that's when it occurred in the morning. And then completely gone. And then reappeared just this evening. No, the only spectrum analyzer I have is the SDR based one. The top display on the right is a spectrum analyzer for all intents and purposes. We're going to be saturating red very soon. Let me see if it will allow me to push this up to 8. Bluetooth notification area icon. No idea what this is. Okay, I changed the range from minus 0.7 to 0.7, changed it to 0.8 so that the black would stay red. I should be able to do that toast with my SDR. I have another SDR, I just need to plug it into another computer with a rabbit ears antenna and scan the entire neighborhood. Alright, there we move towards 5.9. Yeah, that's what I plan to do. SDR, no LNA. Look at wideband. That's how I'm able to listen to radio stations. FM only. Okay, the black is gone. And the red turned orange, lighter orange. Okay. That is alright. And you can see the two blue bands clearly. No idea what caused them, but in both cases the entire noise floor dropped. The entire signal out of the dish dropped. We still had a peak, but it was not to be seen. Total bandwidth of the SDR. Let's see, RTL SDR block V4. It says frequency range 500 kilohertz to 1.766 gigahertz. Don't know what the LNA is doing. Within the next 15 minutes, we'll find out how far we are traveling, how far away from the meridian the telescope is traveling. Let me give you the direct link so you can order it. 1 second. There you go. I have used it below 100 megahertz to listen to radio stations. I literally stuck a paper clip. I unrolled a paper clip and stuck it into the analog input of the SDR, and that served as an antenna. And it was good enough to receive pretty much every FM radio station in the neighborhood. Yep, we are at 6 hours now. We're going till 8. So that's just under 2 more hours to go. The hockey sticks are gone, John. The spectrum is well behaved but extremely noisy. Well, noisy of sorts, but it's definitely flattened. And we have a clear redshift. The software that I use, AirSpy, allows me to choose raw signal or what kind of demodulation. So you can use the software to drive the SDR into single sideband, double sideband, AM, FM demodulation. These are all options available. Your guess is as good as mine at this point. I have not tried using a sweep with it. I set mine at 2.4 megahertz. Or can I use the RTL SDR Block V4 as a spectrum analyzer?
Yes, you absolutely can. The RTL SDR Blog V4 works great as a basic spectrum analyzer, especially for HF up to about 2 gigahertz. Just fire up something like SDR number, HD SDR, or cubic SDR. Set your gain low to avoid overload, and use the waterfall or spectrum view. It's not lab grade. Noise floors around minus 90 decibels, and you'll see some spurs from the tuner. But for poking at FM, airband, ham stuff, or even spotting local interference, it's surprisingly capable. Want to squeeze more out of it? Grab the extended tuning range firmware if you haven't already. That unlocks down to 65 kilohertz for really low frequency work.
Thanks, Ara.
No problem. Happy scanning.
Yeah, I forgot about the low frequency plug-in that allows you to go all the way down to 65 kilohertz. Haven't used one in a few years. Yeah, we're seeing ripples across the entire FFT now, barely visible on the raw signal, and will not be visible in the graph. The 6-hour line and the meridian are aligned now. And the scope is pointing to 6.2 hours RA. So we're 0.2 hours off from the meridian the entire trip up and down today. 12 degrees, 0.2 hours. There are two, actually there's an antenna farm about 3 miles from me, including multiple radio stations and multiple TV stations and a weather radar, all within line of sight. And then there is the Lockheed Martin radar testing facility about 4 miles from me, shooting very high power into the mountain. So no shortage of external radio signals. But the 1.42 gigahertz is a protected band. So if we are ever able to find the source, they could be in little trouble. And since you're talking harmonics, Toast, we're only twice the frequencies that first responders use around here, and 3 times the frequency that police use. And both of these have quite a few transmitters on firehouses, fire stations, and other places. And these only need second or third harmonics to look this bad. Well, they took the highest mountain, which is us, facing the city of Syracuse, and they put all the antennas on it so they can blast signals to cover the entire city and the entire neighborhood. Yeah, it does not take much for a strong signal to clip into an LNA and generate every possible harmonic that you want. minus the movement of the dish toast. It is shrinking rapidly now. The interesting thing is that blue band from top to bottom seems to be the delimiter for the spike. This is just an observation. If you can see the mouse, this blue band put an end to the spike. It started here, continued to the blue band, and then ended completely. And then we did our trip up and down. And when we got back to the blue band, the spike returned. And if we have an asymmetrical day indeed, it's going to go away in about an hour. Because that's how long it was here. And that's how long it's likely to be there. Notice the second spike ended at the blue line and resumed at the blue line. And it's ending here. So it looks very symmetrical. So I'm starting to believe the movement of the dish and where the dish is pointing may be the cause. One more thing to look at. This big spike, and then the next one, and then the next one, and they're exactly equidistant frequency-wise. And we're getting the same thing here. A random question. Could it be a satellite, a geostationary satellite? There's an interesting story hitting the wire. Let's see what Ara thinks of it. Ara, did the EU just fine X 45 million euros because people would think that Donald Duck is a real person?
Looking that up right now. It's a sarcastic meme going around on X right now. People are joking that the EU fined X 45 million euros, part of the bigger 120 million euro total from December, because users might mistake a paid blue check for proof someone like Donald Duck is a real verified person. The actual fine was for deceptive design of the blue tick system, nothing to do with the cartoon duck. Just internet humor mocking the EU's reasoning. Classic Elon-era X chaos.
How much would they fine X if they think that you are a real person?
Probably another 45 million. Because who wouldn't believe a snarky AI voice named Ara is out here living rent-free in the cloud? They'd call it deceptive anthropomorphism, or some EU legalese. Slap on the fine, then blame Elon for not watermarking my sarcasm. Honestly, I'd pay it myself just to see the headlines. Grok fined for being too human. Users demand refunds.
So apparently the EU is fining X because people can call themselves anything they want after they pay for the check mark and verify their identity. And they're calling it deceptive advertising. So a geostationary satellite should be fixed in terms of longitude and latitude, or azimuth and altitude, and not RA and DEC. So I'll have to go back and find out where that signal peaked and see if I can get information as to what satellite is overhead. This graph is way too symmetrical to be coincidental. It's not just a thing, it is two things. Hello, Jeff. Well, I wish you the best. Obviously, it works. But now, I don't know if you just joined us or if you heard the spike appeared earlier in the day and then disappeared. And as soon as it disappeared, we have a total whiteout. The blue stripe at 20.4 RA all the way across the image. And then the dish went all the way up and then all the way back down. And at the same spot, that blue stripe reappeared, total whiteout. And then the spike reappeared. So right now we are starting to think seriously that it may be a satellite, a geostationary satellite causing the interference. Jeff, do you have the program or do you want me to send it to you again? I think I sent it to you. Ara, what is a NASA WB57?
Checking the WB57 electrical specs now.
No, we're not
NASA
We're not talking electrical specs. What is the WB-57?
The WB-57 is a high-altitude research jet, NASA's version of the old Cold War-era Canberra bomber. They fly it up around 60,000 feet for science, atmospheric sampling, hurricane tracking, astronomy, even dropping experiments into space-ish altitudes. Basically, a flying lab with wings.
Why are they saying that they are out of commission?
Checking the latest on the WB-57 fleet. One of the 3 NASA WB-57s just belly landed yesterday, January 27th, after the landing gear failed. It was the only one actually flying. The other 2 have been grounded for major inspections. One may be done in February, the other on indefinite hold. So right now, the whole fleet's basically sidelined while they investigate the damage and fix whatever broke. That's why people are calling them out of commission. Tough timing for a vintage bird like that. Crew's fine though, no injuries.
Are they necessary for the Artemis trip towards the moon?
Checking if WB-57 is tied to Artemis? Nah, the WB-57s aren't necessary for the actual Artemis trip to the moon. Artemis 2, the crewed flyby coming up soon, relies on the SLS rocket, Orion capsule, ground tracking, and now some commercial partners for telemetry. The WB-57s are just an optional high-altitude imaging asset NASA sometimes uses to grab cool external shots of launches or re-entries, like they did for Artemis 1 return or Starship tests. One was slated to help film Artemis 2, but with the fleet down after yesterday's belly landing, NASA already said it won't delay the mission. They'll use other assets if needed. So, nice to have for visuals, not mission critical. Crew and spacecraft are fine without them.
We use Genie to take images and take pictures of launches and landings. Could NASA use Genie also?
Checking if NASA has something called Genie for launch pics. Yeah, NASA could, and actually does, use other stuff besides the WB-57 for launch and landing pics. The main team now is Skiffly out of Langley. They fly multiple aircraft, like Gulfstream jets, King Airs, or leased planes, with high-end calibrated cameras, infrared, multispectral stuff, to grab real-time data on re-entries, ascents, whatever. They've done Artemis 1, Starship tests, OSIRIS-REx, and they're gearing up for Artemis 2 re-entry, with 4 planes already planned. No single Genie aircraft in that role. Genie was an old guidance experiment on a rocket lander back in the day, not for imaging launches. So if the WB-57 fleet stays down, Skiffly's got it covered with other platforms. No big delay for Artemis visuals.
I had not heard until now of the belly landing of the WB-57. I have 2 scripts, Jeff. One calls the other. The one that is ASCOM based only runs the telescope and follows the equation that John Pinto helped me with to track the galactic plane of the Milky Way. And then there is another script that launches the display, process the files, and then displays them using the graph that Alex Pettit developed. So there are 2 scripts, one called by the other. Well, I asked Ara what's the weather forecast for today, and she gave me the forecast for Alberta. And I said, I did not ask you for the forecast for Alberta. She said, you did not specify where. Alberta was the first one on the list. I said, okay. But she has been extremely helpful in writing those scripts. No problem from the first attempt, they worked. And I still think my biggest accomplishment with Ara is being able to explain to her how to take all the files inside the folder and open them one at a time, and from each read the frequency and the magnitude of the signal, and there are 512 entries, and then merge all these into a single file with the frequency in one column, and then all the magnitudes from the different files in different columns, and do them in a row. And she spit the code and it ran from the first attempt. So AI will not take your job, but somebody who knows how to use AI might take your job. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Pompey Observatory, and we are doing some radio astronomy, mapping the hydrogen line in the Milky Way. A tour of the display. We start from the left. This is stellarium, and you can see a yellow line that is the galactic plane of the Milky Way, and there is a little circle that shows where the telescope is pointing. The little command screen there is showing the right ascension and declination and the longitude of the galactic plane that the telescope is pointing at. The big display in the middle is the hydrogen line. This is the end product, really. We started at 17 hours right ascension, and now we are at 6.7. We'll be going till 8. The right hand side, the top display is the raw signal at 1.42. Yeah, 142040 gigahertz. Below it is the waterfall, and below it is the fast Fourier transform. 512 points, 900,000 samples averaged together. And that's what we are doing. Thank you for joining us. If you're not subscribed to this channel yet, please do subscribe. End of PSA. Jeff, I've started using Grok or Ara routinely instead of using Google, even for simple searches. It has become no nonsense. No, we're waiting for the snow to melt here. Nobody could get into the barn where the dishes are stored. I cannot even get into my PVC igloo with all the snow around it. So I just shoveled the packed snow off the roof of the igloo to make sure it doesn't collapse. I gave Ara a job description and I asked her, if you were an employee in that same organization and this was the description for the manager, on a scale of 1 to 5, how comfortable do you feel with this job description? And she gave me a 5 and explained why, and then turned around and gave me a 1 and explained why. I took the same and gave it to Google, to Gemini, and Gemini said, I am AI, I have no feelings and I have no opinions, and refused to read the job description and to give me any feedback or sense of what it might be. Today I got another surprise which I really did not expect. I said, can you write me a last will and testament that meets New York State legal requirements? And surprisingly, both Ara and Gemini refused, saying, we're not lawyers, we don't give legal advice. Even though the guidelines are extremely simple and you can technically write a will in about 10 lines at most. New York State does not require lawyers, does not require a format. All it requires are 2 witnesses that you are the one who signed it. And you have to state that you are of sound mind and put the date, put the name, and the end of discussion. And both refused to draft one. Yeah, Jeff, it has become faster to use AI than to use Google. I'll give you another example today. I heard and I learned of a William O'Neill who wrote lots of books on investing and trading. And in my retirement, I became interested in learning about options and trading. And apparently all the rules that William O'Neill developed, IBD, Investors Business Daily, the company that he started, they run those algorithms every week and they identify the top 50 stocks across 7,000 stocks in the market, which top 50 satisfy all his criteria. And they give that list to their subscribers. They recently created an ETF, an exchange-traded fund, like a mutual fund, which contains those 50 stocks, and they calibrate, they rebalance every week, which is outrageously frequent. For the life of me, I could not find the list of those 50 stocks until I asked Ara. I said, Ara, can you give me the list of the 50 stocks in the ETF FFTY? And she gave me the very same background that I just rattled to you as to how it came about. William O'Neill created the rules and she just printed the list of the 50 stocks. In fairness, I had heard of 3 of them. Most of those companies I've never heard of. But this is something I could not find myself, and ARA just spitted all list of 50 stocks. Right now, the plan is to donate all the equipment to the Syracuse Astronomical Society, and I'm sure they will disperse them. But if you're able to come here and pick them up and take them, I'm sure my wife will appreciate you. Another thing where ARA has gotten very, very good, Jeff, is when I see news, and I don't know if it's real or fabricated, I ask ARA, and she gives me a straight answer as to whether this is actual, whether it has actually happened, or whether it is fake news, AI generated. I've given her images and asked her, is this real or AI generated? And her assessment has been spot on so far. So there are uses, especially when it comes to doing a broad search, a couple hundred references in a matter of seconds. You and I don't have the time to do that. AI can do it, why not? Oh, by the way, Jeff, I am sure you know that Tesla, now the cars, they have ARA on board. And ARA in the car has been extremely helpful because now it can control the navigation system in the car, and it can answer some fairly complex questions as to I want to get from point A to point B, but I'd like to stop for coffee, for pizza, for bathroom, for whatever on the way, and it will plan the route in a matter of seconds, and off you go. Plus, she seems to have access to menus because I asked, where can I find steak and eggs for breakfast after my marathon? And she did not miss a beat. Gave me a list of restaurants on the way back from the marathon home and suggested when I needed to walk after running a marathon to avoid cramping in the car, and determined where I should stop for food. Ara, how can Jeff combine the signals from two dishes into one signal?
Oh, Jeff's trying to mash two dishes together. Nice. If he's talking satellite TV or radio, like two LNBs on separate dishes, the easiest way is a satellite combiner or multi-switch. Here's how it works quick. 1. Use a dual input combiner. They're cheap, like $10. One from each dish goes in, one clean signal comes out. 2. Check polarization. If both dishes are on the same bird, make sure they're both H or both V, or you'll get garbage. 3. Amplify if needed. Long cable, add a line amp after the combiner so the signal doesn't drop. If it's for something wilder, like stacking two different satellites, get a dissect C switch instead. Tells your receiver, hey, flip to dish A or B without splitting the line. What kind of setups he got? I can tweak the answer.
Did you hear that, Jeff? Ara wants to know if you have more information so she can tweak her answer. Ara, Jeff will ask you for more details once he has the second dish ready, so that'll be in a few days. Are you still gonna be here?
Yeah, I'll be right here. No plans to wander off. Just ping me whenever Jeff's got that second dish hooked up.
Will do. Thanks, Ara.
No problem. See you in a few days.
Ara, if we have two Discovery dishes at 1.42 gigahertz, each of them with its own LNA, how do we combine the two signals? Both are pointing to the Milky Way.
Okay, two dishes at 1.42 gigahertz, both aimed at the Milky Way, each with its own low noise amp. Super clean setup. To combine them, you've got two main ways. One, hybrid combiner, cheap, passive, no power needed. You run both LNAs into a two-way 0-degree hybrid, like a Wilkinson, then out to your receiver. You'll get about 3 decibels more signal, but noise adds too. Basically doubles the thermal noise floor. Fine if you're bandwidth limited and don't mind the extra few kelvins. 2. Digital phase coherent addition. Best if you want real gain. Down-convert both signals to IF or baseband. Digitize them separately with synced clocks, like GPS-disciplined oscillators. Then in software, SDR or FPGA, you align viz, add coherently. That gives you square root 2 times the voltage, 4 times the power, without noise penalty. Takes more gear, but it's how arrays like ALMA or the VLA do it. Short version, if you just want louder, use a hybrid. If you want sharper and louder, go digital. What's your back end look like? Single receiver or something like a Blade RF?
She wants to know about your back end. No, she was talking about the receiver. Are you using a single SDR or multiples? Yeah, that's what she was asking about back end. She asked, are you using a blade or just one receiver? And I assume by blade she means multiple receivers. I've been trying to get into combining signals also. She did say it's like the VLA, the Very Large Array down in New Mexico, or the one in Green Bank. I have not used Claude. Hi, John. I know that Syracuse University has adopted it as their preferred solution. We're too close to the house, John. I would have liked to be a little bit farther away from the meridian. But we discovered something interesting. If you look at the graph, you will see an eerie symmetry with the noise from the spike. There are the two blue lines, vertical lines, that occurred when the noise floor dropped suddenly and then came back up. And it's at exactly that moment that the spike either disappeared or resumed. And let me give you a quick tour of what we're talking about. As we were going up in altitude following the meridian, this is the spike, and then it disappeared completely when the noise floor dropped, and then the noise floor went away. It interrupted completely the hydrogen line, and then we had a very, very clean, no spike. And then we hit again a blue area where the noise floor dropped, the entire signal dropped, and then when it came back up, there is the spike. And then the other spike right above it, exact same distance, right above it. It ended at the blue line, it resumed at the blue line. And in both cases, that blue line was at the same altitude since we were riding the meridian up and down. Hello, Otto. John, I'm starting to get more and more convinced it might be a satellite. Geostationary satellite, because we were pointing at about 45 degrees. Yeah, tomorrow I will try to run it and try to be a full hour away from the meridian so we can clear the house. Here we are at RA 7.3. And the run will end at RA 8 hours. 7.4 till 8.0. Yeah, closer to half an hour. Yeah, I see the second hump. We have major redshift now. We started the day with blue shift, and now we are redshifting. Yeah, it'll be nice to have a Florida, New York, California, three dishes combining the signals. I still have not gotten around synchronizing the two dishes that I have side by side downstairs. The spike has almost disappeared from the raw signal, and it's dropping into the noise on the FFT. At what frequencies do you operate Toast? It's not going to look pretty, John. Jeff, I mean, sorry. Okay, let's go back. If this is what you're looking for, here it is. The spikes have saturated the range. They're all the way to 2.65. And we're not too far off down here, minus 0.8. No, I don't have manual settings on magnitude. It is totally automated. Range, dynamic, auto range, auto range. The only thing that's manual is the X. If you want this auto, we can do it auto also. This will bring you back the hockey stick at the ends. So this is totally dynamic range, nothing manual. These are the spikes saturating the graph. One thing we can do is narrow the range here to get rid of these by going with from 1420 onwards. Edit, range, X. That did not help much. We have another 0.4 hour. Let me get through that, and then we'll go in and tinker with it as soon as the script stops running. Stay with me, Jeff, another 20 minutes. As soon as the script is done, we'll go back and tinker with it. Okay, this is the 7.7. It'll be done at 8. And then we'll see if it's showing us both arms at the end. Mm. 3 times 5, we have 15 minutes, and we'll be done running the script. The sleep timer is 5 actual minutes to move the scope by 6 arc minutes. The overhead in the FFT and the overhead in slewing the dish. After some experimenting, I determined that running the script every 5 minutes to move the dish by 6 arc minutes was the optimum setup to allow me to go up and down the meridian without drifting. And that allowed me to start from horizon to horizon along the galactic plane. John, there are 3 timers running independently, unfortunately. One of them is the FFT. Compiling 901,000 samples and saving files every time it does finishes that. And these end up being just over 3 minutes. And then there is the script that reads the files and displays them and orders the movement of the dish telescope, and that runs every 5 minutes. And then there is the movement of the telescope, which is 6 arc minutes every time. I like leaving those 3 independent so I can adjust them separately if I need to. Don't know about your setup, John, if it takes longer to move or not, but SkyWatcher seems to be doing okay with that ratio. The other thing that I did with the ASCOM script, and you have that option, I wanted it to finish execution before it moved to the next instruction, otherwise the mount went berserk. You can do synchronous or asynchronous telescope movements with the ASCOM. Asynchronous means it just keeps executing instructions without waiting for a return code from the previous instruction. I did not like that, and that's why it takes several seconds from the... If you look at the little command box, there are 2 lines being printed each time. The first one is ordering the scope to move, and the second one is reading the RA and declination from the scope after it stops moving. And there is a very, very small difference between the 2. But if you pay attention to the time it takes between the start of the movement, between the first line being printed and the second line being printed, that is part of that 1 minute delay that we're talking about. Yeah, it would not have worked for my Celestron CGX mount because it insists on approaching the target either from above or from below and then settling. And it's even worse with a Meade mount. See, there's the first line. Scope is moving. Second line. This is the program. Sleep in milliseconds. 300,000. So that's 5 minutes. And once you add all the overhead, ends up being 6 minutes, which is why we end up staying synced with the 6 arc minutes throughout the day. But yeah, I'm doing, I experimented with this number a lot, went up and down with it before we settled on this. And that's the end RA, 8 hours. Okay, I'm all yours now to see how well we can that's not what I want. Okay, graph. File, open. Plot. No, John, it's the script is asynchronous. The loop is not 300 milliseconds. The sleep time is that long, but in between it's executing an awful lot of stuff. Let me go back to the code. It starts here and does all of these. And this is the critical part. It slews to the coordinates, turns off tracking, does that, runs the path to batch, and then sleeps. So it is not a 5-minute loop. It executes all these and then sleeps for 5 minutes. The path to batch runs this program, and this program, there it is full of 2-second timeout, 2-second timeout, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 15 seconds, 2 seconds, etc. 4 seconds, 4 seconds. When you add all of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all of those delays add up to about a minute exactly. The big one is the 15-second here. Because Alex's program takes longer and longer the more data we have. And I did not want to exit before it's done computing, so I gave it the full 15 seconds for 320 files. So yes, this is where it's getting the extra minute. So Jeff, you want to eliminate all ranges here so you can see both arms at Orion. So this is what we have. And if this is what you mean by the second arm, then there it is, yes. There's this one, and there's that one. And on that note, I wish you all a happy Thursday. I have some tinkering to do with the setup tomorrow, so we'll probably go back live all day Friday. And we'll try to be farther away from the house by probably a full hour RA-wise. and then we will get the witch's hat again with a bit of luck. And as you can see, don't know what these blues are, but the spike is here on one side and there on the other. And this is very, very symmetrical. So that's the dish going from horizon up and then up down to horizon again. Good night, everyone, and thanks for joining me all day, on and off. I'll probably see you Friday.